conducting a planned hazard reduction burn today. We've got 3 crews, which is a total of 6 people, plus a couple of support crew on site today. Plus we've also got some council contractors that are burning the council estate on the outside of the national park.
So for me, I'll be a sector leader. So basically that means that I'll be in charge of a crew member and we'll be patrolling the line. Depending on the time of day, that'll include actually ignition of the fire, but also maintaining control of that fire that we've just put on the ground and then mopping up activities as well.
We've covered about 22 hectares of land. At the moment we're taking advantage of the kind of day, the temperature, the wind, the humidity, and it's given us ideal conditions to have a really nice slow burning fire at the moment. Rate of spread of about 30 metres an hour, flame heights of about half a metre. So all of that with some of the geographical location that we're in makes for a nice backing fire, nice and safe, very cool so it doesn't really burn our larger stags, and it also gives an opportunity for our wildlife to escape some of those areas too. So we're really focusing on so many different layers there, cultural, natural, to make for a really great collaborative fire. Some planned burns are big enough that we can use aerial incendiary techniques.
I'll be aerial incendiary supervisor, so sort of front seat navigator. So I'll be working with the pilot and the bombardier in terms of when we'll be burning and what flight paths we'll be following. This one is actually probably about 5 years in the making.
So we've had our briefing and we've all agreed on the area that we need to commence our operations in today, and we've discussed any challenges or hazards that might be around that fire ground and where we intend to commence the operation and where we intend to finish the operation as well. So sometimes we come and do an aerial run quite early in the season. We might take out fuels along the ridges, which on the drier, higher ridges that are more exposed to the wind and the sun, particularly the north-facing slopes, we'll take those fuels out first, and then we'll come back maybe a couple of weeks or even months later and we'll burn further down the slope and into the gullies, maybe when it's drier in the season, and that stops an uphill run up to scorch the vegetation up high on the ridge and just breaks the fire down. It'll burn into a fire scar from previously.
As our incendiaries start to burn and spread, you limit that running fire. As the fire's coming up, we'll just keep hitting your fire in front. So that's our big aim today, and luckily the last few days the ground crews have been doing an amazing job and they actually secured a lot of the edges. There's a lot of really good things as to why they're important. The one thing is obviously taking out the fuel loads. So if we did unfortunately get a lightning strike or something like that, and we had a larger fire run through here, we're protecting obviously the community, and it's really good for the vegetation types and things as well if we can create mosaic burning. So I guess our aim is as we light the top part of the ridge, the fire's just going to back down, and then once it reaches the shaded areas and the creek lines and that, it'll start to die down and go out. As we're coming back around, we're actually watching the fire behaviour, so I'll take time to look at that. But yeah, there is a lot happening with the communications, watching the machine, watching what's going on. Once we're up in the aircraft, we're all part of what they call the air crew. So we all have a role as well to help the pilot. So we're always looking, and anything that we see, we'll just point out straight away.
For the first few days, we've been burning around the perimeters and getting a safe edge. And today we got up in the helicopter and did aerial incendiary runs through the internals. Today was a really good success. We managed to get a lot of incendiaries to take, but the fire behaviour was exactly what we wanted. We were really happy with how it all ran today.
For these burns, it really helps mitigate the fuel types that are on the ground, so that fuel hazard.
So here on the Gold Coast, it's pretty much the only sort of little bit of coastal heath that we've got left. So it's about 112 hectares, so really protects that last little remnant of that vegetation type. It also protects a lot of different animals and things that you won't otherwise find in the middle of suburbia anymore, things like echidnas, koalas, lots of different wildlife as well.
Typically, we don't aim for a full scorch. We would like like to only just burn the top layer of fuel to reduce the fuel load and to leave the nutrients in the soil beneath, so that encourages the recruitment of the next generation of species.
On the burn day, I'd like to try and over-resource so that we've got about 6 fire units on the ground. We'll rough it in with 2 sectors, like your Alpha and your November, and they'll be working in together as a conductor ignition. So we have the ignition on the drip torch ignition crew, and then your backup mop-up crew will be following behind them, make sure everything's fine with the rate of spread, the conditions on the ground. The flame heights haven't gone absolutely crazy, but they're there with the hoses, and they'll be raycoing around any trees that are going to be causing any issues down the road, especially when it comes into our nighttime, because we're going to be burning so late in the evening.
So as you can see behind me, we're still getting quite active fire behaviour, despite it being after 6 o'clock at night. So it just helps us control that fire behaviour more. We are quite close to houses, that we don't want as many embers going across to where the houses are. Obviously it's a little bit harder to see where you're walking in the dark. You've got to make sure you've got your light on, but it does make it a little bit easier to see any logs or any trees that are on fire.
We would hope to have it wrapped up within the day if the burn conditions are right, and then we'll continue for the rest of the shift to do mop-up, so to make sure that we've got the fires all contained and that there's no risk of it reigniting.